maybe yours is pretty good. I'll make space for you to do your thing. And then maybe we even wind up saying, let's see how I can integrate those perspectives. And sometimes having this model of the stick figures can help you understand some things you might not have integrated so well. Or a path, a model of something you want to go learn and get skill in. Or an explanation of where you're flipping out. And I think, from my own experience, and I've heard this from some other people, is that when I find myself in the grip of any one of those cognitive processes, or eight functions, and that one has me, almost always it goes back to a temperament need not getting met. Almost always that's the trigger. But that's not always where to go there. That may not be the way out. So part of what you want in terms of development, we'll shadow that session if anyone's coming to that one, but you know, is that we start to recognize the value of these other perspectives, and we start to be able to take those perspectives, meaning have empathy for them, to shift our language. And sometimes shifting starts before the taking. And then we learn to seek them. So asking somebody who's different than you. And each of those cognitive processes has a perspective, and has a gift, and so 4 kinds of information, and problems that are solved without them is going to have something go wrong. And decision-making processes, 4 kinds of decision-making processes. Some are more important for developing categories and deciding this is a good category. Maybe introverted thinking does rule the rules. I think it does. But anyway, so maybe introverted feeling is really the place that we need to be consulting when we want to know what's really important. I don't do that so well. And I can't get by with saying I don't do it so well. I have to stop that. So we've got these 4 processes for perceiving, 4 for judging. And by the way, perception is not just sense, that's not sense perception, it's a cognitive process. So I just invite you to stop using it. Anyway, so what we have then is, in case you're wondering why am I up here in black? Because it's time to shake you up with another color. All right. After working with the model of cognitive processes for a while, we started to notice some patterns emerge, and that certain people seem to have things in common that you wouldn't have expected. And that then we called cognitive styles, since we have just now renamed it intentional styles. It still has to do with cognition, but it has a pattern of its own, and it is in development, so I'm sure there will be a lot of refinement. And there is no page on that one because we haven't written yet. So what I'd like to have you do is, I'll just tell you what the pattern is. I'm not going to go through all the patterns. I want to have you, I'll just tell you about the pattern, and I'll tell you what I'm going to have you do. Okay, so there is a compelling intention. I like to think of it as the back of mind. It's what's in the back of your mind, but you may not even be aware of, because all of these, the core needs, the core drives, all of those things are outside our awareness, so they're unconscious. Now that's not the unconscious. It's just outside our awareness. That's what unconscious means, in a simple term. Okay, so there's a compelling intention, and that compelling intention has sort of a thought about, oh, well, if we do this, it'll get that outcome, some kind of an outcome. And that filters for, information comes in, so you filter for a certain kind of thing. And then there's a rationale that you make up about why that's, that goes along with this, that you make up about it. And there's a talent, a certain kind of talent. Like I said, it has to have a talent. And then there's some language that comes out. So what happened with this is we started to know these patterns, and Chris Montoya took a think he took the Type Resources Qualifying Program, the APTi Cognitive Processes Centered one. I don't know when he did that. And then he took my program, and I think it was 2008. And anyway, he was always looking for tools, and he started making some connections, and we had already been making connections. So we said, okay, we think there's a pattern here, how we can find it. So I gave him the 40 pages per type of each of the 16 personality types that were from the interviews that we did back a long time ago that created our self-portraits. And they were in their words, the things they talked about. We asked him, what's it like to be you? He went through and identified one complete thought, every complete thought he put on an index card. And bless his heart, he made me copy them. It's a big envelope box full. I never looked at it, and he did a card sort process with them. And then he'd come back, and I'd say, well, no, that has too much temperament in it. No, that has too much of dysfunction in it. No, I was just horrible to work with, just critique. But I said it had to have a pattern, and it had to have a driver. So this was the pattern we finally came up with. And so if you take that matrix that we have been building with the temperaments at the center, and you look at the different colors, we have different styles, right? And on your page with the type codes on it, you'll find this on the lower left-hand side of that page, you'll find the names in the matrix. Okay? So what I want you to do with this is I want you to find what would be your style based on the type code. Okay? And we gave them these names, and the names seem to compute. Enhancing, customizing, orchestrating, and authenticating. All right, so now let me think. If you think, listen to all of my directions before you move. I'm not telling you what to do, I'm telling you what I want you to do. Okay, practicing directing and don't fall off stage. So enhancing, if you think, if by your type code it would predict enhancing as your intentional style, later I will ask you to come up and stand in this corner. Right? If it's customizing, then I want you to come up here and stand in this corner. And if it is orchestrating, then you go back to that corner. And if it is authenticating, you'll go back to that kind of corner there by the technical equipment stuff. But get out of it, don't do technical equipment because it's going to be a big deal. Anyway, so I want you to go there. So here are the type codes that go with it. So find your type code, go there and stand there, and then once you're there, I just want you to stand there and not talk, please. I'll let you talk later. Okay, so go. Yeah, but I remember so authenticating there you go. That's now what I want you to do is I'm going to talk to you about these styles, and then I can give you 3 minutes to talk among yourselves to see if it fits, okay? Now, you're not going to talk as a whole group because your groups are too big. This is nice. We have nice diversity in the group, assuming that this is right. So, anyway, so the enhancing mind. If the driving intention is to enhance, to make things better, no matter what. The talent is for synthesizing. Making, that's one of the ways you make things better. And the rationale is it accurate? If it's accurate, it's good. If it's not, it's not. You throw it away. And the filters are for constantly looking for incompatibilities. So the language is, they talk about things like what's best, and they will often describe things. Guilty as charged. So, but before you guys start talking, let's let them listen too, okay? So then let's go over here to customizing. Customizing is about meeting the needs of whatever the situation is, or the customer, or the, whatever you see needs to be. And so their driving intention is to customize, to make it fit. And their talent is for adapting, taking all kinds of things and adapting them to meet the needs of the situation or the group. And the rationale is mutuality. And they want to have like, you give me something, I give you something, sort of that even exchange where we're all kind of working with it. And then they filter for the objectives. Does it meet the objectives? And their language is, they'll talk about what's essential. And they will use incisive language, getting to the essence of something really quickly, like it just nails it real quickly, okay? All right, now let's go back, we'll go around the corner. Let's go back there to orchestrating. Orchestrating is, their intention is to orchestrate. Now what I understand that to mean is you have a lot of moving parts and you put them together, like an orchestra leader, to get this outcome, an outcome. And so their talent is for regulating. If you let all the instruments play at the same volume, it's not going to be a good result. So they want to orchestrate that outcome. And their rationale is efficacy. Now, I think efficacy means does it work? I don't know, there might be a better definition of that one. I'll have to improve my definitions. Maybe someone over here can enhance that a little bit. Anyway, so, and they filter for persuasiveness. In other words, how well does this convince or persuade? And their language tends to be what's effective, and they will use influential language. And that pairing just blew my mind when we saw what the clusters were. Okay, and back in the corner is authenticating, and I do think that is still the largest group. This is the driving intention is to authenticate, to make sure that it is good, ethical, moral, in agreement with. And their talents for validating, and the rationale is the norms, and the filter is rightness. Is it right? And they tend to talk about what's constant and use justified language. And let's talk about if this is justified. Now I'll give you a real, while you're standing there before I let you talk, and it's a little chaotic. No, go ahead, you talk for 3 minutes. I'll set my time. start of some conversations, and that you might just discover that one model of type doesn't tell you everything. And that this way may help solve some problems. I had one organization where everybody, they could use type, all of the lenses. I mean, they spoke BB, the 8 functions, they spoke it all. And they used it well and ethically, and it was a language that they used. And the 2 leaders were not getting along. And I went in there and I listened to them, and when Chris Montoya and I had talked about this a little bit more, I go, oh my God, here's the problem. One was coming from authenticating, and the other one was coming from customizing. So I did a little group activity with an assignment, and afterwards, the one leader who was being really disrespectful had an authenticating pattern, and he apologized to the person with the customizing mind. The customizing mind was the person responsible for meeting client needs, right? And kept wanting to do variations of the process they had created. And actually, it didn't resolve all the issues, they're still fighting. But that's an ego development question, not a type question now. So we got most of the types of, but it's sometimes when things aren't working, maybe it's time to put on a different jacket. Okay, so I have 5 rules, and those are written down on your paper, so just go ahead and stand there, and then I'll tell you where to go after. So one is to always honor the core driver. Always ask, why does this behavior make sense? And is the need not getting met? Is the drive not getting met? Are they chomping at the bit to accomplish stuff from an in-charge style and they don't get a chance, etc. Always honor that, always pay attention to that. And forgetting to happiness, and it was called happiness, in the communication zone, align and do this for yourself. Stop putting yourself in situations where your needs aren't getting met. Linda saw that. Okay, so align with the values, beliefs, and the rationale. Whatever that is, this is where you want, and when you want to get alignment with employee engagement, for example, or for yourself, are you able to see your core beliefs? Is that getting in the way? Does this need some alignment or what? Engage the talents. The talents give us the means to scratch the itch that the core creates in all of the models. And observe behaviors, your own or others. You must observe behaviors. Respond to the behavior as a hypothesis in the other person. It's safe to do that as long as it's a hypothesis. Don't label them. Don't limit them by their behaviors. And hold the lenses lightly. Hold them lightly. They're not the truth. I always feel like they are. They feel so right. So accurate, don't they? No. So, hold them lightly. No one wants to be labeled. No one wants to be put in a box. But it's useful to categorize things. But hold them lightly. So, those are my rules. Welcome to the journey. What I hope is you got some things that might challenge why you think people are opposite and they may not be. Or you got some other ideas, or you're just kind of like full and you're not going to do your homework tonight. I just know it. Anyway. So, and by the way, on the blue handout on the back, it's not as thick, it's not the type matrix either. They're organized by processes. So, okay, did I make my time? Yes. Yes. So, take a quick walk or whatever it is you need to do, and I will turn it over to whoever's doing whatever is next. So thank you all so much for hanging in there with all of this content. I guess that happens.
back at my desk. And that's supposed to be, oh, you could show me later.
Yeah, well, I have it right here.
Okay.